in the what I think should be the live before lock show, but we'll see soon enough. This is the one part that I don't know.
The most important part. You go live though for the Saturday show, right?
Yeah, but Josh sets it all up for us.
Also, we're backwards. You're Chris Spags, and I'm Fast Eddie Fear today. That's
yeah. No, this is the last mile here that I don't think I'm connected to the right.
All right. Thank you, guys. They're telling us now we're live on YouTube. So, yes, we are live. Oh, okay. Welcome, everybody, to the awesemo.com live before lock show. We'll be taking you through the day's NBA slate, 7 games, full of action, full of things to discuss. I'm Chris Spags, despite what your screen will tell you, joined by your old pal, Emac. How's it going, Emac?
It's going good. As long as they can see us and hear us, we're in a good spot. This was a last-minute join here, but I think we got it. We'll see. They'll let us know soon enough.
Yeah, I'm putting in the Slack now. People are already mad that Eddie's not here. Eddie is unfortunately having internet issues that are not going to be fixed in time to be on the channel today. But we are working on it right now. Or Eddie's working on it right now. So he will hopefully be in the Slack later when his internet is up to answer your questions for all of our premium members. Hold on, let me just put this in the Slack. All right, cool. So Eddie is not available right now. It sucks. We're going to do this. It was either me alone or Emac, and I felt like it was better to have a little friendly face there. Emac's laugh makes me happy. That's why you're the first call. The Brad Beal of Osmo, somebody called you, which is a fantastic thing to be.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, I'm going to get my 42 minutes in today. That seems to be for sure. They had me early on in the morning, and then you guys have me now. But this is actually shaping up to be a relatively straightforward slate. The pricing has kind of dictated that we may not be able to go to the tippy top in some of these situations, and then we also will have to see if any other news pops up with regards to starters or new starters, etc. I was just futzing around here. We're heading out to Washington State tomorrow, so I was busy packing, and then I saw that Chris had messaged me here. So let me call up a news page here and make sure that we've got everything that we need to know. But I think I was watching most of my little app questions come in here. Otto Porter is going to play. That was one of the key ones. And then I think is there one other one? We do know Kyle Lowry is in. Okay, that's a big one. Jeff Green is going to be available to play. Thomas Satoransky is going to be starting alongside Otto Porter. Eton Moore, we found out this afternoon, is going to be in. And as we mentioned on the earlier show today, we said even though Otto Porter was listed out on some sites didn't have the news at all. I was kind of wondering if this is there an impending trade? Is there something going on here? Because they've been bandying about rumors, they being the internet, looking to move him potentially to 2 or 3 different teams. And since he was out for personal reasons, then played, and then had this mysterious toe injury, Chris, I was kind of thinking, gosh, is he on the move? Washington is saying all the right things. We don't want to move him. He's one of our guys, yada, yada, yada. But he's their highest paid player, and he just has not been working out well this year. And lo and behold, here he is starting. So he went from out to starting. Gotta love the NBA news report.
I didn't realize that he was a symptom of trade rumors right now. I feel like his trade rumors are always ongoing, though. So I'm taking it for what it is, probably just a toe injury for real.
Yes.
And Otto is not a guy who's great at playing through pain. I think that's something we've seen. He's not a guy who's great at playing, period, especially not playing through pain. Let's see. But those news items, I think, are everything that I had to hit on as well. One thing we are waiting for a Warriors lineup to come out. That's going to be a key one to watch, depending who the starters are there. That's a perfect spot versus the Atlanta Hawks. If it's Looney getting the minutes, if it's Bell getting the minutes, if it's Jerebko getting the minutes, any of those guys could have a nice day versus an Atlanta team who's really bad. So we will keep an eye there. And of course, as always, premium Slack, feel free to drop news and notes to us as we go. At me on any questions you have or any news, because we are going to miss things as we're talking and trying to fill the air. Real fast, let's do our promo. We are presented by Thrive Fantasy. Whether we have the names right or not, we are presented by the top prop betting or prop DFS website you can use. It's Thrive Fantasy. It's been a really fun site to play since we started promoting them. Actually, I've been shockingly good at this to the point where I might be in the wrong career field, and maybe I need to go just play Thrive all the time and not burn money on DraftKings anymore. But no, Thrive has been fun. They're offering a deposit bonus to anybody who signs up now. You get $10 on any $10 deposit, $20 for a $100 deposit, and $50 for $200 or more. And again, this is how you build your bankroll when you're a new DFS player. It's just a good way. You're taking advantage of the charity of sites that are trying to get new users, and Thrive is doing that. They're doing their best to thrive in this economic system. So go check them out. Let's talk about the first Thrive bet that I want to make today. What would you think about Paul George over under 21.5 points, EMAC?
Ooh, that's a good one. Let's think about that one for a second. We know that he does have Russell Westbrook, but he is definitely playing as many or similar minutes to Westbrook. Let's go look. I'm in the process of. I always like to set up my spreadsheet as I'm watching you and Eddie, or you or Josh and Eddie on the Live Before Lock show. So I haven't pulled in all the final projections, but we've got him. Gosh, that's going to be real close. So the three different sources I look at have him between 20 and 20 and a half. I do think I'm going to go under. And the main reason I'm looking to go under on this one is, one, they're on the road, and two, Detroit actually has been reasonably good defensively, and I think we will probably see George tasked with guarding Blake Griffin as opposed to Jeremy Grant, just from a size standpoint. So I think his energies maybe needed to be focused a little bit more there. Enough that, would it shock me? No, this is one hell of a number, and that's what the projection sites say. But I'm thinking he'll come in the upper teens. I would say 18, 19, 20, but he won't get over 20.
So yeah, I have him at 23.3 in my projections. I think those points are fair, and the Pistons do limit threes pretty heavily, giving up just 31.2% from deep on the year. And that's obviously Paul George's game is pretty three dependent. But I like him enough. I think this game is going to be competitive, and really with the Thunder, with how they've played recently, a lot of games have not been competitive. They're either blowing teams out or just, I guess they're really just blowing teams out. So I think for George, that's what I'm banking on here, is that the Pistons can stay in it. I think as long as George is on the floor, he's going to be useful. Probably more useful from a fantasy perspective than trusting his scoring, but I would take the over of 21.5 on Thrive Fantasy. And I just dropped that link in the YouTube chat, so go click it, get your deposit bonuses, support our people who present shows for us, because that's how we keep these shows free and thriving. Get it?
Well done.
But also,
well done.
Well, thank you. Hey, thanks, EMAC. That's what you're here for. You're my hype man. You're my Eddie McMahon today.
Good one, sir. Good one.
It's the role you were born to play based off that one impression. And actually, one more promo real fast. Sorry, guys. We're going to get to all the NBA stuff you want to talk about. I promise you. I promise you. But we are doing our 24 days of giveaways right now for Christmas. And Hanukkah and Kwanzaa, everything December, and Ramadan. I don't think you get Ramadan gifts, but every holiday we're celebrating, because we appreciate you guys supporting the channels, dealing with Eddie not being here. We got to have EMAC called into duty for the 5th time in a day. But we do appreciate every one of you. So if you like this video, and leave us the pick that you are the most afraid of playing tonight. There's a lot of guys who are with some risk. We got a very chalky Tomas Satoransky. We'll play the ownership game in a little bit to give you a bit more of a peek at that. There's a lot of guys who could bust tonight. So like this video, and then leave in the comments, not in the live chat, in the comments, the pick you're most afraid of tonight. You'll be entered to win a rest of the NFL season pass from Awesemo.com. That's all of the rankings and projections and ownership stuff, which is very key for NFL slates, including one like yesterday where Spencer Ware just needed to know that he was going to be popular. You couldn't have found out if you didn't have an Awesemo membership. So go like the video, leave a comment about the pick you're most afraid of today, and you'll be entered to win, as well as entered to win a grand prize at the end of it all, an all-access pass to Awesemo.com for 1 year. We're giving that away on Christmas Eve. So go leave a comment. Whew. Got the sweats, Eddie.
All right. Now, for those of you that are just saying, what is Spags yammering on about? The little comment section, this will appear after the show's over. This is what a lot of people were asking in the early show. No, it's not the chat. You have to, as soon as we're done on the show, a comment section will appear. You'll have your username will be next to it, and you could type in what you're looking for, and then that will be how we connect you, if you are lucky enough to win the drawing.
I feel like it might be visible on the live page, but I don't know if that's just because it might be just an admin thing. But yeah, it's not the best strategy for these live streams, but as soon as the stream ends, just jump on there, leave a comment, and that'll be how you enter to win this one. What is Spags yammering on about? Spags is giving away things and promoting companies, because that's what a professional host does in every environment. But let's talk NBA. EMAC, My favorite game to play with Eddie is guessing our ownership. You might have it in front of you. I'm hoping you don't, though. Do you have it in front of you?
I have loaded it, but I have not finished doing all my lookups, so I
Okay.
can't see it. So full disclosure there. So I won't look at it.
All right. So yes, don't look at it yet. Guess what we do is Family Feud style. Guess the top 5 owned guys, and I'll tell you as we go each one if you're right or wrong, and the ownership percentage related to them.
All right, and this is a good one because I don't have the same mind here that Eddie does, and because I have never really worried that much about the ownership until I started working here, and we had such great resources. And now this is something I track each day, and I run down and I compare what it is with a couple contests after the end of our shows, and these have been uncanny on how close they are. It's almost disappointing if they're off by more than 3 or 4%. And we go down to the percentile. Some of the other sites that do them, and kudos to them for trying to do this. They'll do like 25, 20, 10, 15, 5. We get down to the percent, and so often it is very, very close. So that's buying me some time. I think at the top end, the popularity is going to be a little bit diffused, particularly on DraftKings, because we have 4 different players that are 10,900 or better. So I am going to say amongst our top 5 owned players, Karl Anthony Towns will be the expensive guy that I think is going to be in there.
Karl Anthony Towns, not one of the top 5, but he's in the top 10, 17% projected ownership on DraftKings.
Okay, and now see, this is where Eddie starts to think, I'm going to back that out of the rest of these numbers here, and I know there's multi-position eligibility on DraftKings and all of this stuff. So yeah, I'm not quite.
It's a lot of mental gymnastics he does, which I am not capable of, and I don't blame you for not being capable of either.
Yes.
I'll give you a clue because you're not Eddie. It's fine.
Oh, I
got a
my number
guy
2 guy
in here.
Ennis Cantor. Ennis Cantor.
Not no Ennis Cantor. He's 16% ownership too, so he's right in that same range as Towns.
I'm liking where my lineups are going to end up tonight. Then I will take one. It's two strikes, so let's go with the third one. We haven't talked about guards yet. Tim Hardaway Jr.
So very close. So you're around it. You're getting maybe just the tip. When you call this. Tim
That's
Hardaway
a game
Jr.
I usually play with my wife's bag, not on these shows.
Tim Hardaway Jr. is at number 8 with 22% expected ownership. So the top 5, number 1 with a bullet, John Collins, just a very good deal on DraftKings at 5,300. The center eligibility there makes it a little tough, not dual position, but at 35% projected ownership, it's a good value. A bit of a tough one to trust. Any thoughts on Collins tonight?
I'm surprised that he is the top guy. I actually do like him, and I'm sure he will pop in my lineups and crunches. I'm figuring he's going to approach 30 fantasy points. Of course, there are no guarantees with that, but he is one guy. I did a couple drafts on the draft app today, and I ended up with him as my forward 2 in the 4th round, and I was actually happy with that in the 8-man. So I have 0 issues with that, because there you start to consider down in your 4th or 5th round. You're like, well, I don't want to pick these guys because they're not a great deal. It's like, no, it's all raw points, so you don't have to worry about the scoring. And he's one of the guys that I think has better raw points than people give him credit for at first blush.
Number 2 on the list is Anthony Davis, who to me makes a ton of sense. There's nobody on the Clippers who can guard him. It's a pace-up spot, a really high-scoring game expected here as well. He's projected for 32% ownership on DraftKings. I see nothing wrong with that. Are you on Team AD tonight, DMAC?
I will, but I'm guessing. So when you get to, for those of you that are mucking around, and you really ought to try the free week of premium, because you can get the Fantasy Cruncher add-on. It's a whole new ball game. So one of the things that when you do this is these optimizers, they like to take what is the best point per dollar. So they're just clinically going to run that calculation and say, okay, here's the guys we're going to give you. So when you have so many people up at the top today, we've got 4 of them that are all around the same price, all around the same projection. It's going to give you guys by 1/10 of a point or a 0.2, and you're going to get guys that you don't want. So you want to go in and set rules or limit the exposures or enhance the exposures, goose their projections, whatever, a little bit. So I'll be running my crunch here in just a moment. I'm going to load the last of the projections in here, but he's one of the guys I do want. I like that he has that power forward eligibility, because that means we can put him into 4 different spots between forward, center, power forward, and utility. So he's someone I want to get in there, because I also want to see if I can get Karl Anthony Towns with him. Then I'm going to be playing Emmanuel Mudiay, fill in your other Nick DeJour and that'll be probably Collins will be in the mix as well. That's going to be kind of my ideal lineup, would be my guess. The other thing we want to remember tonight is the games start at 7 and 8. There's no late games, so if you're looking to do late swap or whatever, there's not that many late games. So be careful what you're doing here. You want to think of it as like kind of a thinner slate, even though there are 7 games.
Yeah, I think that's all. Those are all fair points. And yeah, it's helpful. I mean, I guess you don't have to stick around as long toiling with your lineups on DraftKings today with the late swap news that's been really dreadful some of these days lately. But yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I think the dual position eligibility of AD helps a lot. And I think there's enough value on the slate where you can get to him. I've been able to get to him and Curry. Those are 2 of my favorite plays on the slate, a good amount. And I think there's enough value out there, which we'll talk about as we go. Number 3 on the list, Taurean Prince, 31% ownership. Definitely a situation where, why am I getting called by somebody in Tennessee right now? Like, what in Tennessee could possibly need me? Anyway, Taurean Prince, 4,800 on DK. So here's the thing with Taurean Prince. I like Taurean Prince as a player. He's not being used a lot. He's under 20% usage for 5 straight games now. I think the price is fine. I don't know that he's going to have a great day versus Golden State. I don't think he's getting enough run. I just don't see it for Taurean Prince. And if he's going to be 31% owned, I'm pretty comfortable fading him. But what do you think, Mac?
I'm okay if he ends up in my lineups. Now, he's someone I would probably say, if I'm going to play him, I'd probably want one other Hawk, and I'd want someone from the Warriors, just because if they're going to have good games, I'm going to assume they being Atlanta, is going to drag along somebody from the Golden State Warriors at that point. And we've seen Atlanta be frisky at times. They're very, very deep, so it gets to be a little bit harder to trust their actual players because, you get Prince in there, you got Bembry in there, Poitras is out, but Alex Len is in the mix. He got a DNP coach's decision the other day. Dedmon's there, so it's hard to trust any of them, but they do have some decent guys, and as Golden State tries to get back gelling once again with Curry into the mix, it would not shock me if they I don't want to say struggle, if they don't slam the door on Atlanta in Atlanta for the first 3 quarters. So in that case, who is it going to be that gets them there? I would say Collins, decent chance it's Prince, and then I would probably bring Curry in, just because he's kind of a little bit discounted to Durant. So that if you're looking for a little mini synergy play, that's what I would look to do.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think if Collins is going well, he's going to be scoring, he's going to be rebounding. I think that's a fine play. I'd personally just rather go Trae Young or somebody like that than try to trust Taurean Prince to keep it going. Like, I think Trae Young, Jeremy Lin, I just feel like there are more reliable parts of the Hawks there than Taurean Prince. And if he's going to be chalky, I would just exercise caution there, because I'm a person who's been burned by Taurean Prince many times, and I like to forgive and forget. But when I see you guys steering into that death trap that is Taurean Prince, I want you to avoid it. Number 4, Gary Harris at 27% ownership. Yeah. Gary Harris was injured for a little bit, came out with a big game versus Portland at a very fair price. Still not expecting a kind of game like that versus Toronto. I think this is an easy fade for me too, but what's your Gary Harris thoughts, Emac?
Well, I'm always a huge Gary Harris fan. I always chose him when comparing him to Will Barton. That was just kind of the lean that I had. Things have changed a little bit. He did not do as well as I had expected with this long layoff that Barton has had, but that's because we have Murray coming in there and seeking his shot a little bit more. We had Monte Morris, who wasn't in the picture last year really, and in years past, when we thought, okay, as soon as one of Barton or Harris is out, the other one's going to do quite nicely. I agree with your lean on this one. There's just a lot of bodies there. The price is reasonable. If I remember, it's like 51 or 53 there on DraftKings. But how many times has he been over 30 fantasy points? Not that many, and that's where I need him to be at that price point. So I'll probably let him go this evening.
Yeah. Okay. So we're on the same page there. Last guy in the top 5 is Tristan Thompson. So I've been all over Tristan Thompson. The idea of a chalk Tristan Thompson does scare me a little bit. These Nets are not the same Nets as they were last year, where it's not always a home run spot versus them, even though they do give up some big games. We just saw Gobert have a big game last time out. I still think Tristan Thompson's a good play. I guess there's just some concerns for me when Tristan Thompson's that highly owned. Like, I've been getting him at under 10%, and I'm loving that every time. But I didn't mean to make a money sign. I don't think it's really been I've been making that much bank off of Tristan Thompson. But I don't know. I worry a little bit about it. But what are your Tristan Thompson thoughts?
I'm okay with him. Price is getting up there, but he has definitely earned it. He has double-doubles in 6 of his last 7 games, and it's the scoring that has really been there. Now, generally, he's one of those guys that doesn't get a lot of plays. Most of his stuff occurs in the paint, on putbacks, on cuts, or filling the lane. So sometimes that disappears, but he is really, with the disappointment that we've seen with Larry Nance Jr., he's kind of stepped in and filled the role and production that I thought Larry Nance Jr. was going to get. So I don't hate him. If he was into my lineups, I wouldn't try to get him out. As Lofty likes to say, I wouldn't kick him out of bed for eating crackers or something along those lines. But I don't think I'm going to actively look to get him into my lineups where, as you've said, over the last 4 or 5 games, that's been something that we've done. But as his price gets up into the 6,000s, it becomes a little tougher sell.
Yeah, I mean, the minutes are hard to ignore, like, getting 40 minutes of runs sometimes. And, the Nets are playing at a down pace, so he's not even have to run around that much. He can just kind of get in a position and do what he wants. But, Jared Allen's not a bad player on the other side. And I think he's also not a bad DFS play, in my opinion. But I think he's not a bad player. And I think he's actually thrived in some tough matchups this year. And I think that, it could be a tougher night for Thompson than it seems. And with his price up, that it can be a scary one. What about Alec Burks on that Cleveland side? He's another guy who's not projected to be super popular, but I think he is one of the value guys who people are looking at a lot.
All right, let me look here because I want to look. Okay, so 3,800 on DraftKings. That is somewhat intriguing. This will be his 3rd game with Cleveland. He has played 20 and 26 minutes. Wow, he's getting more rebounds. He's had consecutive season-high rebounds, twin games of 6. Really? That's helped him a little bit, and we know he's going to get. We know he's a scorer/shooter. Now that was something that once Donovan Mitchell arrived on the scene in Utah, even with the Trey Burke getting out of there just weren't as many shots to go around, and we can see that it looks like he should be getting double-digit field goal attempts, and that's something that I think is rather helpful. So between that 20 minutes, let's just say he's going to get 3 rebounds tonight. I still like him to flirt with 20 to 25 fantasy points is a reasonable projection, and at 3,800 that gets us in the he's not going to kill us if that's all he gets. And hey, a couple shots go in, or he continues to get 6 rebounds instead of 3, and we're going to be flirting up there with 25 or better fantasy points.
Yeah. Okay. I think I think we're on the same page there. I like Burks. Burks has always been a guy who I've been a fan of, dating back to Utah too. He was good in the playoffs last year. He's good at whatever Rubio wasn't playing. I don't know what he did wrong there. I feel like sometimes you're just around and people get tired of you for a while when you're a first-round draft pick who never really reach a certain apex. But I think Burks is a good per-minute guy, and he's also been taking some minutes from Colin Sexton, which I think is noteworthy. Obviously, Colin Sexton, they invested a lot in him, much more than he did for Alec Burks. But I do think that there is some interest in getting Burks more minutes, and he's just good when he gets court time. I think that's all he needs. What about the other value guys on the slate, EMAC? Does anybody else jump out to you who's cheap? We have Tomas Satoransky being fairly highly owned. I think he came down a little bit, but he is pretty highly owned. Do you have any sort of inkling on him? Because I'm not a huge fan.
So it's funny. Adam is a Washington Wizards fan, and I am as well. I moved out to the DC area about 12 years ago, and once they got rid of the knuckleheads, I started liking them when they enjoyed playing with each other, and they had Gortat and Nene, and it was kind of fun. Now they all hate each other again, so I'm tired of Grunfeld. I don't like Scott Brooks as a coach. I think Tomas Satoransky is one of the bright spots that's there. Now here is the main issue with him. He will not look for his shot. He is one of the most efficient shooters you will see, but he never takes a bad shot, particularly if he's going to be out there with the starters. He'll have close to single-digit usage, which is just not going to be helpful for us. He will defer even more than Kelly Oubre, because Kelly Oubre, you can always count on him at some point going into DGAF mode. Satoransky doesn't do that because he's kind of a secondary point guard in the Euro games. He's listed as a small forward or point guard depending on the set that you're playing, but he's more of a ball handler, running the offense from the wings, but he's responsible. And that doesn't do well in the NBA when you need your guy to get his. And if he's not looking for it, he gets a pass, good shot, but that guy's got a better one. He does a second pass. It's not hockey. You don't get the assist for that. So it kind of wears things out. So if these guys were out, or if John Wall was out, yes, I'm going to have an entirely different answer for Tomas Satoransky, but I'd rather have him with the second unit, and I probably just won't go to him tonight. Would it shock me if he went 3 for 5 with 3 assists, 2 boards, and 2 3-pointers? No, but that doesn't get us 20 fantasy points. That's a problem.
Right. Yeah, there's just no ceiling there to me. And I think I like him as a player too. Like he's a guy who I feel like a lot of teams seem to forget. Like you want guys who are just going to have 10% usage on the floor. You want the Satoranskis, the Wilson Chandlers. Not everybody has to be a high usage player. And in fact, it's probably better to have a more consolidated usage for the main guys. But I think for DFS purpose, like you're right. I'd much rather have him when John Wall's out. That was a pretty profitable spot last year when John Wall was out and Satoransky would be in. Great playmaker, does a lot of the little things that add up fast, kind of like this is actually probably an insult to Tomas Satoransky, but a little bit of an Archidiakono to him, where if he's on the floor, he's doing something positive usually, and that earns him more minutes. But with all these guys on there, Beal and Wall are going to have the ball so much. Markieff Morris is going to have it as well. And if Otto Porter is in, it's just like, well, I don't know why you go there other than to save money. And I'd rather go to Burks for the same price.
Yeah, completely agree.
Let's talk about another guy on Washington side who we just talked about a little bit. And he is another Thrive fantasy prop bet who we should hit on real fast. John Wall's over-under on Thrive is 20.5 points. And of course, Thrive is the prop bet app where you're using prop bets to get ahead of the tournament field in large slates. So John Wall over 20.5 points. I'm not exactly afraid of Emmanuel Mudiay defense. And I have John Wall projected for 23.3 points today. So I would go with the over. What about you, Emac?
I would agree, and that's actually the number I was thinking of as well, was 23. So I think that's reasonable.
Great minds.
Well, we'll find out. Of course, we're going to be able to find out relatively quickly in the next 90 minutes or so. But I think that's a reasonable projection. I like him for 20 points. I think he'll get double-digit assists. I'm going with 12, and I think he's going to get 2 or 3 steals. Is kind of where I see his line coming in this evening.
Yeah, so there we go. So go to Thrive Fantasy. Again, play these 2 bets. We did go over on, I went over on Paul George, Emac went under, and we both are going over on John Wall. So use those picks accordingly on Thrive Fantasy. Go click the link. It's bit.ly/ThriveLBL. There's capital letters in there, though, so make sure you click it from the YouTube link that we just dropped in there. And you'll get $10 with any $10 deposit, $20 with any $100 deposit, and $50 for $200 or more. And that's a fast release. You get that right away. That release couldn't be any faster. So no slow drip. Get it immediately. So go to Thrive. Thank you to Thrive for supporting the show, and thank you for supporting Thrive. Let's talk about any questions. See any interesting questions? Premium Slack ignoring us because they are Team Eddie and they're throwing a tantrum by just not adding us anything. Should be bastards.
Hey,
ship my money though.
Be nice, man. Eddie was on like 6 days straight. He did a Sunday show. He did a Saturday show solo. Sometimes the internet just doesn't agree with us. So you have to go with that. And Eddie loves the show, so he was doing everything he could to get on air for you guys.
The only solace is that Eddie probably did a ton of prep like he always does, and he's just sitting on it right now. It's nothing to do with it, which makes me giggle.
Oh yes, poor Mr. Fair.
What's the chalk to fade? All right. We talked about the chalk up front. We actually listed off the top 5 guys, which you could also get for free 1 week. Go awesemo.com with promo code live before lock if you want. But let's talk about the studs, because I think that's sort of an important thing with all the value there is all over the place. Talked about AD a little bit. Let's talk about the other guys, Emac. Like, how are you finding the studs, the Hardens, the Westbrooks? I guess which guys are you comfortable with, and which guys are you kind of like not for me tonight?
All right. For me, Karl Anthony Towns would be a guy that I would like. He, in his last 4 times that he has faced off against Clint Capella, is averaging about 1.4 fantasy points per minute. That's DraftKings. Adam and I went into a little discourse on this in this morning's show, and Adam pointed out that that's kind of about where Karl Anthony Towns is as well right now. So, hey, that's exciting. The one thing that's changed since then, Houston is the 3rd slowest team in the league this year. Now, yes, slow is slightly different relative as things keep creeping up with the shot clock change and where they take the ball out of bounds change a little bit, but proportionally, they're the 3rd slowest team. Was not expecting that. Last year they probably both these teams would have been top 10 easy, and it would have been a different answer. We would have seen some eye-popping over-unders. Still one of the better ones of the day, and I think with Jimmy Butler out of the picture now, I think that Karl Anthony Towns is the guy I would like amongst those. I agree with going to Anthony Davis because he does not have to deal with Steph Curry taking shots and production from him. He does not have to deal with Chris Paul like James Harden and Kevin Durant do. So those would be my 2 guys at the top. I actually like Chris Paul today. I think he's 8,000 if memory serves correctly on DraftKings. I'm liking him for close to 40-ish fantasy points. It's a nice baseline play. Now I'm about ready to hit the little crunch button here and see what happens with my lineups. He is someone that may fall out because that's about 5 points per thousand, and that's usually about the break point where guys start dropping out of your crunches if you're gonna not goose them individually or set ownership caps, etc., to artificially have it go down the list and pick players. So he's someone I do want to make a cognitive effort to look at. I would like to play him on the same teams with Karl Anthony Towns. Of course, my fillers are going to end up most likely being the New York guys and the Atlanta guys.
Yeah, I think that works. I'm not as big on Towns as you tonight, to be honest. I'm not crazy about this matchup for him. I think Capella's a pretty good foil. And we do have Towns at a little under 20% ownership. So I don't know that you're really getting a deep enough ownership discount to be worth it. I think if you were at 5 with where his price is, I think it's interesting. But you have a cheaper Jokic. You have Tristan, who we talked about. You have Drummond is only $200 more. And I think OKC, obviously a matchup with Steven Adams, you're going to be closer to the rim than not. You're going to be competing for rebounds, which will be tough, but Drummond can win that battle. And he crushed OKC in the preseason as well with Adams active. So, I think there's enough options to get away from Towns, which are lower owned and cheaper and maybe better value plays, but it's hard to argue with the upside of Towns, I guess. So that is a perfectly credible play.
Right.
We got some.
I'm looking to see here now. Here's one trick that for those of you that are doing the ownership projections into Cruncher, and you're coming down to the wire here, like I kind of am. I added a column to bring in the Osmo projections, but I also uploaded the Osmo ownership projections as my projections, so I can see what Osmo has, and then I'm going to tweak accordingly. Normally, I run this open with like a 30 or a 60 or whatever it is I'm doing, but since I'm on air and I wasn't planning on doing that, I don't have a lot of time to go in and manually adjust that, and I've got 110 lineups here that are going to be going off, so I want to make sure that I have something that's reasonably not too high or not too low from where we think the field's going to be. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look and see where it comes out, and then I'll start manually tweaking stuff. But if you ever run into a time crunch, here's a little trick on how to have Fantasy Cruncher and the Osmo projections do the heavy lifting for you.
There you go. Yeah, people are always asking for Fantasy Cruncher advice, and we, if you're not aware, we do offer that as part of any membership here. You get it added onto that, into any sort of baseline package we have, and it is a helpful tool, especially when you are last minute crunching like EMAC is right now.
Yes, but so now I've got to go through and say Tari and Prince. So here's a good example. We have him at 31. I don't want him at 31. I'm going to call him 15. Same thing with Gary Harris. I don't mind getting him, but I think it's just as likely that he does. So I'm going to come in at half the field on that one. So I'll just set him at 15. So this is how you can quickly start to shape your player pool. And this is what you would normally do throughout, an hour or two before the game, and you get your quote portfolio all set up and everything looking nice. But this is the like speed chess. If you ever go to the park and the guys are doing moves and hitting the time clock, that's what we're doing right now. 16 more minutes, Spag. 16 more minutes.
It's hardcore. You're a thrasher out there. You're crunching with no rules.
That's exactly what people think when they look at me.
They're like, EMAC, that badass. He just plugs ownership projections in. He doesn't even care. We got some questions in the premium Slack, which we should hit because we appreciate your premium Slack. We know your team, Eddie. Eddie's your Sherpa throughout this journey through Fantasy NBA. But we have some great takes for you as well to give time and time again. Here's an either or for us for DKGPP from our guy Appersy. Would you go Cat, your boy Cat, Cancer, and I assume Danny Green, or Tristan Thompson, Paul George, and J Val? Which of those is more appealing?
Well, of course, the Toronto guys are going to be the two guys that are kind of the weak person on each side. Danny Green's okay, gets a lot of minutes. You're hoping he ends up with knocking down a couple threes and getting a couple steals. Joval, you're hoping he stays on the court. That's always a bit of a concern because if he's playing well, if he's not playing well, it can be an issue. So he's going against Jokic tonight. Joval is, which he's been hit or miss in his last 4 starts against him. So I think I'm going to lean towards the first one, but I think this is very close. And it comes down to what is your risk tolerance? So I know Danny Green's going to get the minutes, even though most everybody's healthy now for Toronto. I don't know what's going to happen with Joval, and it would not shock us if Joval played 17 minutes tonight. I don't think he's going to get you there.
Yeah, I would agree. And I don't know that it's a fantastic matchup for him anyway. Also, it's possible this could have been Jeff Green, but if you just say Green, I'm going to think it's Danny because I don't think so. Here's another
Even if it
question
was Jeff
from-
Green, I'd still say the same thing because everybody is appearing to be in for the Wizards. So while we do like him coming off the bench, he's lather, rinse, repeat. He's going to get more rebounds and score more than Danny Green, but he's not going to get the peripherals. So
yeah, that's fair. Let's see. Also, Raboshua asking about Jeff Green, getting a lot of Jeff Green in his projections, or her. I guess Raboshua could be. It's hard to tell from account names who's a lady and who's a man, but no offense intended if you are a beautiful lady or any sort of lady, Raboshua. But 78% Jeff Green seems like a lot. He definitely comes up for me in projections on both Fantasy Cruncher and mine. I had to mute him because I was like, this Otto Porter, and this is not a worthwhile play at all. But are you playing any Jeff Green, or do you have any interest in him?
If he's coming in at all, it will be wherever the field is for me. He's an afterthought. It doesn't look like I have him because I'm trying to get more of the guys, the five guys we've already talked about. So that's kicking Green out and just trying to find better point per dollar plays at the bottom.
Yeah, I think that's a sort of an easy one to jump off for Boshua. I would definitely not have 78%. I think 10% Jeff Green is more than enough Jeff Green. If you are entering a bunch of lineups, especially, you don't need to go crazy over the field for Jeff Green today. Tristan Thompson or Cancer for Cash for SJM in the premium Slack. Who would you go with?
Ooh, that's really a good one. I think I would still lean towards Thompson because he is not coached by a crazy person.
I think for cash, I would take the higher ownership with Thompson and a pretty good floor as well. Thompson doesn't blow up that much. And there's been days too when I've really been on him for like about a month now, I think, whenever they started going slower and just keeping him out there. And even in days where he had like 25 minutes because they got blown out or whatever, and they're not getting blown out quite as much now. He still got there. He still got close. He gave you something. Whereas Cancer, who knows, foul trouble. There's a million ways you could break bad for Cancer, or as Emac mentioned, Fizdale, just Fizdaling it up somehow, putting in Mitchell Robinson at center just to be a jerk. So there's a million ways to go south for Cancer. I don't see that for Thompson today. Let's see. Any good questions in here? Looking at the premium Slack, Ibaka or Collins for a GPP play on DK? Who would you go with for Eric 5858?
I would go with Ibaka. I mean, I would feel a tiny bit more comfortable playing Collins, but so is everybody else, and we already said he's going to be one of our top-owned guys. So what are the odds that Collins potentially gets 20 fantasy points and Ibaka gets 30? 1 in 3 times. Okay, well, if that happens, then I'm beating the bulk of the field there, and it'll come down to the other positions, of course, but that's how you create what we like to call leverage. So once you get to that sort of tipping point, you may there are times where you want to stay with Collins. Maybe you say it's 1 in 4 that Ibaka gets him. It's 1 in 5. Okay, then I probably don't care about Ibaka. I can find somebody else. But I think it's about 1 in 3, maybe a little bit better in this particular matchup for Ibaka. We're going to need him to be a blocker. We're going to need 2 blocks from him, and he hasn't been doing that with the frequency that he did earlier in his career. But I think there's a chance because Denver plays so darn big that he's going to get some opportunities out on the floor tonight. So I would go that route.
Yeah, it's tough because Collins definitely seems more like a GPP play, but when he's the highest owned player on the slate, I think you're losing that sort of potential that Collins brings. So I would probably go with Ibaka just because he's not going to flame out like Collins is, and I don't know that he has the ceiling he had earlier in the year at this point, and how the Raptors kind of rotations have shaken out. But I think Ibaka would be the pivot just because you're saving so much on ownership there where it doesn't make sense. Thoughts on Covington on FanDuel in particular, but I guess in general, Emac.
So I think he has, between him and Saric, he has been the clear winner moving into the new team. He's getting just the minutes that we want to see, just the boatload of the I'm going to run you into the ground kind of minutes that make fantasy sports work. And with him getting that, Sarge, I think, is an afterthought. I don't know who's going to take it away from him, and he's one of the best defenders on their team. So I like going to him. I mentioned it on the earlier show. He's not getting enough love on the draft app either. You can pick him up as your forward two all the time in the 8-mans in the 4th round, and it's definitely something that has been helping me a lot. I like him any given night to get around 30 fantasy points, but he does have the ability, if he knocks down a couple of his threes, gets some hustle helper stats, all of a sudden you're looking at a 40 burger, and that's fantastic for what his price has been. Once he gets up onto the DK 7,000 or the FanDuel upper 6, lower 7, then it changes a little bit because it's just harder to get over on that number.
Yeah, it's 6,800 on DK. It's a tough price, but I wrote about this morning in my column. Let's all reference the content we did before.
Well, it's a good reminder. We've been looking at this all day. We're doing rapid fire answers. You guys haven't seen us as much. You're used to seeing Eddie and any other people. We do a lot of work behind the scenes for this stuff. We are well ensconced when we come into this. So just because you see us sitting in different chairs or in different roles doesn't mean we don't know what we're talking about. We haven't spent hours looking at this already today.
Yes, that is very true. And yeah, so yeah, for me, Covington, I think it's a high price and it's definitely a jarring price, but he's been there. He's actually been getting to where he needs to go for that and above. And I think 3 straight games. And, I'm not ready to accept Robert Covington as a guy in the price range around 7K. But if you were to put him in a vacuum and say like player A has done this, here's his price, you'd be like, that's fantastic. And, I think there could certainly be some regression, but we're thinking of regression relative to his role in Philly, and it's not the same. He shot 1 for 18 versus Chicago, and he still had an okay day, but he shot 1 for 18. Could you imagine letting Covington shoot 18 times? That's what the Wolves are doing. So I think that's where you're going with Covington. I think he's a fine play. He's a little expensive, and mentally it's hard for me to get there, but that's why there's value in going to him. Cantor versus THJ. Who would you say has more raw points on DK?
So it's a great question. I think your range of outcomes on Hardaway is going to be like this. Cantor, I think it's more narrow. I think you're almost assured of getting 20 or 25 fantasy points from Cantor tonight. The question is, how much farther up the chain is he going to get? Is he going to flirt with that 40 fantasy point night? He could conceivably get a 20-20 in this game. That is in play. Hardaway, at least he's going to take a boatload of shots. Are they going in or are they not? Kelly Oubre, decent defender. Otto Porter, decent defender. Even though the Wizards are playing fast and are playing up and down, if anything gets into the half-court set, they're not horrible. It's just that they don't try after rebounds and run down and get set up into that half-court defense. That's their main problem.
Also, we just got an ownership update out. If you are a premium member of Osmo.com, you can check that out now. Nothing changed if you were paying attention before with the top 5. So just so you guys know, but Nikola Jokic is a guy who jumps out to me as taking a bit of a leap up. He is now a top 10 projected ownership guy on DK. I'm not crazy about Jokic. I saw some box score watchers in the premium Slack talking about how he had a big game versus Toronto. I don't like Jokic's role right now. It seems like they're trying to force more Millsap action, which I think is good for Millsap. And I probably don't have enough Millsap today, given how he's played his last 2 times out. But I don't see it for Jokic tonight. What do you think, Emac?
8,200. That's the enticing thing on DraftKings, and the fact that we can play multiple centers. That keeps him in play for me. If he was 8,700, that'd be my break point. I'd be looking at the game logs myself and saying, how many of these has he gotten over 40? And none of them he's gotten over 50. This is not good. Everybody's healthy again, with the exception of Will Barton in Denver. So that does have trickle-down effect even to the front court. And Plumlee has been getting more minutes than expected, or not than expected, than what he was getting in October and early November. So that's kind of changed our perception of the rotation as well.
Yeah, I think that's actually a pretty fair way to look at it. And the price is hard to avoid. Jokic has been under that a lot. And I think it will snap back. But for me personally, I want to see it snap back first, just because this Denver rotation, there's just so many ways it can go. They're a very talented team, which I appreciate. But there's just too many mouths to feed. And you could have Gary Harris soaking up usage. You could have Jamal Murray, who's been quiet the last couple of times, decide it's his night to assert himself. It worries me a little bit about Jokic. And I feel like a lot of the other center plays, there really isn't that sort of push-pull dynamic where you're like, oh, well, this could break bad for me. And I think with Jokic, it can, even at a cheaper price.
Here's a random question. Did you end up in anything that you were looking at, any Damian Dotson? So here's a guy, he's kind of, I think, getting lost a little bit in the mix. 4,500 on DraftKings, and he's coming off back-to-back 30 fantasy point games, and he's just been getting some serious minutes. Now, again, Fizdale, but that is some upside there, and this is the kind of game that can help him. The reason he's doing so well, he's shooting, and he's not missing. 7 of 9, 6 of 11, 6 of 8. That's like Jimmy Chitwood shooting. This is it's off the charts. Will that go away? Maybe, but we never know when these guys are seeing the basket and it looks like 3 times the size it normally is. So he's someone that I don't think I've heard anybody talk about, and I didn't think about him until about 10 minutes ago. But I'm now making a lineup just to have him on it. So.
Yeah, no. So the thing with him that you're getting is you're getting the discount on usage with Burke out of the lineup. And I think it actually will help him out. It'll help Knox out. We just saw how that helped versus Milwaukee. Though I think Knox was more of a matchup thing because he's gigantic and gangly, and that obviously helps versus a Milwaukee team who's basically the Monstars from Space Jam. But I think, I think there's value in Dotson. I worry, though, he's been so efficient, and the Wizards are not a great defense, so he can keep it rolling. But I think he's been so efficient where it's probably smarter to play it the other way and assume he's going to slow down. But that said, I do have a game stack of New York and Washington, which has him in there. There's a lot of value on the Knicks side. I'm worried it's a situation like, I don't know if you played on Saturday, Mac. I assume you might have because you were already doing the prep.
I did.
Okay, the Nets, it looks like the Nets to me, which they're it looks like great values, and they might just tank, and because they're a New York basketball team, and that's what they do, and that's my concern. But the value's there.
Agreed. Let's see. I'm just looking here, scanning to see if we have any news. I just wanted to check on Ibaka. He has only had 2 games with more than 1 block in his last 10, and he's had a couple with 0. That's the one concerning thing, but his other 2 games, 4 blocks really shoots you up the fantasy scoreboard. So that's where we were talking about the difference between him and Collins.
Jay Kelly 13 asking the premium Slack, am I crazy or does this seem like the perfect time to get Russell around? Seems like everyone is going elsewhere. Are the Pistons really that good? I think I agree with you, actually, Jay Kelly. This is a pretty good spot to get to Russ tonight. Russ has been looking really good. He's coming off a disappointing game versus the Hawks, but that was just because they blew him out. I actually like the Thunder overall, but I think Westbrook projected for under 15% ownership on DraftKings. That looks pretty good to me. And again, a lot of people will be going to AD, so I think there is value in going there and hoping Westbrook puts up, an 80-pointer while AD puts up 65. Is Westbrook popping up for you at all, Emac?
Westbrook is someone that I was trying to get over on draft today. I don't mind him here, but he can triple-double under any circumstances. I just think this one's a little bit tougher of a matchup. I would prefer Westbrook over Durant or over Harden, but I've got Davis, I've got Cat, and even to a lesser extent, not quite the same, but Cantor, guys that I would try to get before I would go to Westbrook. But he's definitely in the top 5 of, if I'm picking 3 of my quote core plays, he would be in that handful that I would look to for this. And it looks like I've got him on about 30% of my lineups that I just uploaded. So.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, I prefer the other guys as studs, but I do like Westbrook. The same reasons I like Paul George up top. I just think, it's a game which is going to be close. I think the Thunder played enough pace where I think it could be a good one. And I also think a Westbrook Blake kind of stack looks like game stack will probably be low owned. And I think, again, in a competitive game, you have 2 guys whose numbers can really get up there. So I think it's an interesting one for me. I don't personally have Blake and Westbrook in the same lineup, but now I wish I did because I say smart things when I'm talking on the show.
Well, it's that's where you end up with the shoot. I don't have Damian Dotson. He's popping right now. I'm gonna be very angry with myself if I don't have him in at least one lineup. And then you gotta go get him. So there you go.
That's life in the fast lane sometimes. This question is probably going to be too late, but we'll take it anyway. Sorry, don't Embiid my status. Curry, Sexton, and Danny Green, or Wall, Frazier, and Eric Gordon on FanDuel for a GPP.
Second one, if you can get it in quickly.
I'd go first one, but I think they're both.
There you go. One of us is going to be right.
Didn't matter because he won't get it in on time anyway. Because I think we just locked. That's sorry. It's we were trying to hit everything we could. It was a shortened show, unfortunately, due to tech stuff. I guess are we doing an Uncle Emac and Uncle Spags like? That is a game that America loves. It is America's favorite game, as decreed by the gaming board.
Let's do that. And because I've had, and we'll stay on for just a second. Let me get up the last Osmo projection, because I was talking to some people in chat on the early show, and they're saying, how good is the Osmo projections? And I said, the ownership ones. And I said it can be uncanny with where they are. So let's put that to the test.
Hopefully it works out.
I hope it works.
One day where it all goes sideways, we're like, oh, well, at least we tried. But no, we are usually. I mean, the thing is, it's an imperfect science, but it is one that I think we believe our team has down better than anybody else. And I could say now, having been here, I mean, almost a year. It'll be a year in the spring, but feels like a year and a half. But every single day, I'm always impressed by the lineups and the ways that we have ownership shaking out. And it does change a lot as you get closer to lock. Like as I write my column in the mornings, you'll see it change. But I think that's where you want it to do, and that's where you want ownership to be, not a stagnant thing like it is on some other sites. Not to bash anybody.
Miritich is out for those of you still watching us. So you have, hope that's an 8 o'clock game.
Wait, who's out?
Miritich.
Oh, that is a big news item.
So that's an 8 o'clock game. Reading this correctly, yeah, because it's on the late slate there. So with him, I think for me, making sure this isn't a 7:30 game. Yeah, so you guys have time. Deep breath. This was 1 minute after lock, but it's an hour before tip off for that game. We still have a bolus of games here at 7:30. So you're really only looking at the OKC Detroit game locked. I was hoping that Golden State Atlanta one would be, because that's what I want to see our ownership projections for. But you have plenty of time. Take a deep breath, step back, and look at it. Now, in this particular situation, because this is going to be more of a pace-up game, I do like Julius Randle. Even if I had to just say I'm taking a direct pivot, I think they're similarly priced. I'm guessing Randle might be a little bit cheaper on DraftKings. I would have zero problem just going straight to him, and then leisurely looking and seeing what else you can do if you have a couple $100.
Yeah, and then obviously that would also make Davis a little more appealing as well. Just a little more usage to go around. In fact, I'd probably bump up Drew as well. Just everybody going to get a little more usage with Miritich out because he is shooting the ball enough. There's some extra rebounds to go around. Man, this kind of makes Anthony Davis like I would think a must play to me. About as close to a must play as you can be. Nothing is a must play, but I mean, like what else are they going to do? I think they're going to score a lot. The Clippers are going to score a lot, and maybe that's a little more Drew, but I think you're inclined to see an 80-point AD game here.
There, yeah, could be a good one. All right, let's do a couple of these projections to the test, and then we can cruise on out of here, because I'm being pinged. My co-host for the Early Bird podcast, his favorite team is playing on Monday Night Football, so he wants to start recording the podcast early. So.
That is fair. We'll breeze through it fast. Let's see. Nothing's updating on DraftKings, right? All right. Never mind. I got it. Hold on. Do you have ownership easily accessible? Because I only have the guys who are in my lineups.
I have them. Yep. I've got the Osmo page up. So.
Oh, but okay, not the. So yeah, usually let's see what Paul George is. Paul George is in actuality on the DK Big Jam, 4.7%. So what did we have him at?
Sorry, I gave us Golden State instead of. Let's see. We have Paul George. What is his percentage?
4.7% on DK.
Oh, okay. Sorry, it's 7%. So that's
right in range. Yeah, I mean that's the thing too. Is like a couple of percentage points really aren't a big difference maker, but knowing he's going to be in single-digit ownership, that's sort of where the value is. Where's my Westbrook lineups? Oh, so I only really have random assholes from this OKC Detroit game, which I think is the only one that started at 7 on the dot.
It is. That's why there's not too many to look at here.
Russell Westbrook, 13.5% in DK's Big Jam. What did we have him at?
14 even.
There you go. Steven Adams, 4.5%. Uncle Spags likes that a lot because we have seen centers go hard against Drummond. I think Adams is in a nice spot at a nice price. But what do we have him at?
We have Adams at 7.
All right. So yeah. So both they undershot a little or overshot a little on Paul George and Adams. So that's a nice little discount we're getting there.
What about Blake? Do you have him in his?
Let me see if anybody else has him on the top here. I got Stanley Johnson. Stanley Johnson, 5.96%.
We have him at 2. That's
box score chasing.
Don't play Stanley Johnson.
Stanley Johnson is a terrifying prospect to have in your life. Looking for any of the good guys, but nobody played Pistons, it looks like.
Well, that's not necessarily a surprise. Most of them they're relatively healthy. Bullock's back. They've got kind of a 4 guard/wing rotation. So it's not that exciting here. I just downloaded the file. So.
I got Reggie Jackson. He is at 7.8%. And what do we have him at?
We have Reggie at 9. So
there you go. Right in range. Blake Griffin, 10.1%.
We have him at 13.
Andre Drummond, 3.9%.
So here's the interesting one. So we have him at 10. Now, One thing that we've seen, and you were just kind of hitting on it as well. Centers they're kind of mucking with what we're trying to do with what Eddie and Tom and not Fast Eddie but other Eddie behind the scenes are doing, putting into this ownership projections because of the multi-position eligibility and some of these guys sliding between power forward and center, plus the utility spot, plus the general pricing on DK where they've been giving us a bit of a gift on some of their bigs, especially those that have rebounding and double upside. You can tell that that's kind of hard to see where is the herd going to go because they're priced down. You can't get a ton of them in there, and they're generally very closely priced. It's a lot like quarterback is this year on DK. Right. So it's sort of like, well, I only have 200 left. I would need 500 to get this guy, but I'll just take this guy because they're going to get about the same points. That's what's happening with the center position, and just because there's the utility and multi-position eligibility, it gets a little bit tougher there. So I've noticed that's the one thing I have noticed. Our projections have been a little bit high on some of these, but they've not been egregious. So I think what our projections are telling us is we should be playing more centers.
Yeah, really. I mean, like I love it. Like Uncle Spags loves getting Drummond at that. I didn't play him at that, but if I get 4% ownership, knowing the upside and knowing a lot of people are going to be playing Tristan Thompson, people are going to play Cancer. You're talking about a guy who's got 55-point upside, who's not being played. Let's see here. Oh, never mind. Okay, you know what? Tom just dropped in a bunch of ownerships, but I think we hit on the main guys here.
Yeah, those were the main ones I had.
Yeah, we got all the main guys in. And then let's real fast, a couple quick questions, and we'll let Emac go do the early bird because we don't want to upset any Eagles fans. Randall over Tristan Thompson now. Is that a question for you? Who would you go with, Emac?
I would take Randall. I like the game a little bit better just because it's going to be a little bit more pace. I think Tristan's still okay. I wouldn't rearrange. If I like the rest of my lineup, I wouldn't try to rearrange it to get in Randall. But if I could make a direct swap, I would probably go to Randall just because those that locked and are going to go eat dinner right now are going to say, oh, I don't have Mirotic. I don't have to go change things. You're going to get ahead of those people for Randall. That's
a great point. And yeah, Kwame Nation asking in the premium Slack, I think with everyone going to Randall, it will lower the ownership on Cancer and Thompson for about the same price on DK. It's an interesting question. I think it will a little, but I think this is really late news, so it might not as much as you would think.
15 minutes before lock? Absolutely, that's perfectly sound reasoning. 1 minute after lock? I mean, had I not been on air, I would have been down cooking dinner. So, and I would have been the one looking at my phone going, oh, Mirotic, I didn't play him tonight. I'm good. And I would have kept cooking dinner. So.
Yeah, that's how it goes. I think that's a pretty fair one for this stuff. And thanks to Tom. Thanks to Tom in the Slack right now telling me how to use the ownership stuff. I didn't know that there's an easy way to do this. You just export your lineups out, I guess, on the DK desktop page. If you're curious how we do this, this is how you look up all the ownerships accordingly. So go to that lineup page and export to CSV.
Yeah, and if you're not actually in that contest, if you go to the DK lobby and you click on NBA or NFL or whatever sport there is, you'll see a little green live button. If you click on that, they have all the contests that they tag as, quote, featured shown there. So even if you're not in them, you can click on those and you can download the whole CSV of the contest. That's what I was just doing because I wasn't in the $10 one today. So
there you go. Yeah, I'm an idiot who just always plays the big tournament every day for a few lineups because he's got to get a little in the mix.
You need a little Jones. You need a little juice, a little action.
Yeah, that's all. But there we go. That's it for us. Thank you guys for sticking with us today. We know this wasn't a perfect show. We know you guys all miss Eddie, but we do have a lot of people here on the team who are doing a lot of stuff every day, preparing as best we can with the information we have. As hard as Eddie is, maybe not as hard because Eddie is a crazy person with his prep, but as much as possible, we're looking at the stuff. So we will, every time there's a host on here, we're not giving you bullshit. We're giving you the best information we can. So we appreciate you watching. And again, make sure to like this video and throw a comment in when it ends with the pick you're most afraid of who you have in your lineups right now. And you can get entered to win a chance to win a free NFL pass for the rest of the season, as well as entered into our grand prize drawing on Christmas Eve, who will then receive an all-access annual pass. So that's a really big savings. I think that's like a $700 value or something like that. I don't know the number offhand, but it's a big number. So you get all the sports with that. You could win money with Jake Hari every day in NHL, which frankly, not enough people are taking advantage of because that kid is brilliant and handsome. I miss doing shows with him. Mr. Jake, you're not watching this. But that's it. Those are my plugs. And thanks to Thrive Fantasy as well. Please download that app. You get the deposit bonuses. We pasted that a bunch of times. Anything before we go, Emac, you want to give the folks?
I think we're good. We've got an hour and 10 minutes before kickoff to the Monday night game. There is a free article for those of you still watching on the homepage of awesemo.com breaking down the primetime slate. You will be getting those continuing through the end of the season for Thursday, Sunday, and Monday night football. With that, since I'm controlling the button, Spags, I'm going to push it here. Good luck.